Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 31 of our Rink-Side with Hits and Clips podcast. Well, we officially have our 2025 Centennial Cup champion, and I would like to say a big congratulations to the Calgary Canucks, who defeated the Melfort Mustangs of the SJHL. And so the Calgary Canucks, not only were they the hosts of the tournament, and not only did they win the entire Centennial Cup, but this was a team from the AJHL. The Calgary Canucks, as many of you probably remember following over into episode 27, I had interest in working with potentially the Calgary Canucks in the future if I found myself in the city. But overall, the Calgary Canucks are your 2025 Centennial Cup champions as they defeat Melfort, and they have been crowned the championships and the hosts of this tournament. Well, if you were following our episode number 27, named Centennial Cup Update and 2025 PJHL Schmaltz Cup Champions, well, you would have heard me mention all of the final scores up until Sunday, May 10th. And so the games on Sunday, May 11th and after hadn't actually happened yet. I'm going to run through the entire final scores of each individual matchup, and then we'll get into the conference finals matchups, the semifinals, and then the championship series, which took place just yesterday on Sunday, May 18th. So on Sunday, May 11th, just last week, it was the Rockland Nationals who defeated the Calgary Canucks 7-2, and it was also the Grand Prairie Storm of the AJHL who defeated the Cam River Fighting Walleye 3-1. Now, I will also mention that this is the preliminary round, and so all of these teams are building up wins. So the more wins they have, the more likely of a chance they have into getting into the quarterfinals. So on Monday, May 12th, it was the Edmundston Blizzard who defeated the Braves to Valley Field with a final score of 7-2. The Trenton Golden Hawks of the OJHL defeated the Greater Sudbury Cubs 5-2. And the Northern Manitoba Blizzard defeated the Cam River Fighting Walleye 3-2. We moved to Tuesday, May 13th, and it was the Melfort Mustangs who took a win over the Rockland Nationals 5-2. The Trenton Golden Hawks of the OJHL come up big as they defeat the Grand Prairie Storm 6-2. And the hosts, the Calgary Canucks, defeat the Edmundston Blizzard 8-2. Well, we now move on to the last day of the preliminary round, and on Wednesday, May 14th, it was the Greater Sudbury Cubs who defeated the Cam River Fighting Walleye with a final score of 2-1. It was the Melfort Mustangs who defeated the Braves to Valley Field 5-4 in overtime, and it was the Grand Prairie Storm who defeated the Northern Manitoba Blizzard 6-3, and we officially have our quarterfinal matchups as we are only down to the last 4 teams remaining. Well, with the Calgary Canucks and the Trenton Golden Hawks having the most wins out of this tournament so far, they advance to the semifinals, which means we are going to have a tiebreaker between the Greater Sudbury Cubs and the Melfort Mustangs for matchup number 1, and then the Rockland Nationals and the Northern Manitoba Blizzard for matchup number 2. Well, the Melfort Mustangs crushed the Sudbury Cubs 7-1. Greater Sudbury has been eliminated, and the Melfort Mustangs take that second last spot in the semifinals. Whereas for our second tiebreaker matchup, it was the Rockland Nationals who shut out the Northern Manitoba Blizzard 4-0, and the Rockland Nationals will take the last spot in the semifinals. Well, we are now on to our second last day of the Centennial Cup tournament. We are also on our last 2 matchups of this tournament as we have our final 4 teams heading into the semifinals, and it will be between the Rockland Nationals and the Calgary Canucks, and then the Melfort Mustangs versus the Trenton Golden Hawks. Well, with these 2 games happening this past weekend, it was the hosts of this tournament, the Calgary Canucks, who defeated the Rockland Nationals 3-2 in overtime. Well, not only the hosts of this tournament, but Calgary will also be representing the AJHL in the championship series. But who will they be taking on? Well, it was the Melfort Mustangs who defeated the OJHL Trenton Golden Hawks 4-3 on Saturday, and the Melfort Mustangs will officially take on the Calgary Canucks in the championship series, which means we are going to have a showdown between the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League and the hosts of the Centennial Cup and the team also in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, the Calgary Canucks. Well, just yesterday, Sunday, May 18th, at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, it was the Melfort Mustangs who went up against the Calgary Canucks in the championship series of this 2025 Centennial Cup. And I can officially congratulate the Calgary Canucks on not only winning the Centennial Cup this year, but winning it as the hosts of this tournament, representing the entire AJHL, and the Calgary Canucks win their 2025 Centennial Cup, which means that the Melfort Mustangs have lost this tournament. So just an overall really great tournament. Now, I wasn't watching any of these games live because I believe you have to pay or have a subscription to watch it on the Hockey Canada website, but I was following the score very closely. And so just to see that the Calgary Canucks came up over the Melfort Mustangs is a huge accomplishment. I mean, I would have loved to really see the Trenton Golden Hawks in the championship series, but nevertheless, I'm really glad to see the Calgary Canucks come out with this victory and claim the 2025 Centennial Cup. So that is just a little recap of the entire Centennial Cup championship series and tournament. Have you guys been watching or following this tournament at all? And if you have, how did you enjoy it? How was your experience, and who are you cheering on to win that Centennial Cup? Well, this year it goes to Calgary, and I think it's only fair that Calgary does win this tournament. And I've said this in multiple videos before in the past, but when you look at, say, the Memorial Cup and the hosts of, say, last year, the Saginaw Spirit, even though they got knocked out by the London Knights in the OHL playoffs, they went on to win the Memorial Cup. So just an overall outstanding performance by every single team. And even if you didn't win the Centennial Cup, that's okay, because I think it's just a privilege to have been playing in the Centennial Cup overall. Say, for example, the Trenton Golden Hawks, the one team that had to go through the entire OJHL and defeat every single team that qualified in the playoffs just to make it that far, win the OJHL championship. At least you won the championship for the entire Ontario Junior Hockey League. I'm sure it was just a privilege for every single team to fly out to Calgary, Alberta, and just represent not only their team, but their league in general. And so if you are listening to this podcast episode and your team came up short in this tournament, just know that it's really, really tough just to even get to the Centennial Cup. So I'm sure every team, every fan, every volunteer, every person who has been a part of every single junior hockey league team in the entire country, I think you can just be really impressed with the overall result and that you're able to spend a couple weeks out in Calgary. So thank you everyone for tuning into this episode. Really appreciate it. We also have a very special announcement that we're going to be making based on releasing a new social media platform. And if you aren't familiar with what this platform is, well, you'll want to stay tuned, because this is going to be a platform that I'm sure will get a lot of viewership and support on. So be sure to check out us on that platform when we release it. If you don't know what that platform is, be sure to follow our Bluesky account for all of our latest up-to-date notifications. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you again soon.